So without further ado, we want to. Hi, this is Monty. I'm with Andrea, and we actually have the special guest, Roberto Blake, who is the creator of Creating Awesome. He is a creative entrepreneur who helps individuals and businesses to create awesome video and amazing technology. Specifically, with he's a YouTube expert with over 70,000 followers. Roberto Blake is a great guy all around, awesome person who has graced us with his presence. Without further ado, just thank you for joining us, Roberto.
Wow, like that was a really good intro. So how are you guys doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good.
How are you? Making something awesome?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome.
Perfect. Well, we want to start off by asking you a question, which is falling in line with what we do at the mobile apps. And first, I want to say thank you, first of all, for being here. We really appreciate you for being here and helping us launch the podcast. A perfect scenario for us. So we wanted to know whether or not you were familiar with the startup modality.
Well, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you just now.
I was saying we wanted to know if you were familiar with the lean startup modality, with the lean
startup mentality. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with my creative business, I still, even with it scaling and growing, I still focus on practicality and just trying to keep things within a certain budget or things that are practical. I mean, one of the things I do, even with all the tech and gear that I buy, if I don't feel that in like 2 or 3, maybe 4 as a maximum in terms of client jobs that at the current level that I'm doing, if I feel that that wouldn't pay for itself or it wouldn't justify the expense, I don't buy it right away. Or I look at an alternative. So that's something that I look at, and I believe that whether you're a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a startup, that you really have to look at your investments from a very practical place.
Awesome.
Monty's sort of very familiar with the bend only when necessary. But I know he has a follow-up question to ask.
Yeah, and it's really, I guess, more specific to, and these are just sort of general questions we typically ask most people. What are some of the apps you're using for your business? Like, what are you actually using that is helping you to be mobile?
Well, like going into the mobile is something that I've been like focused a lot more on because of the fact that I've had to do a lot more traveling because I'm doing some public speaking now, but then also there's some relationships that have worked out really well to where I'm traveling more to do that business. So what I'll say about that is that there's a combination of hardware and software that I'm using. And so in terms of the software, when it comes to the mobile devices, it's a mix. I use for the desktop a lot of the Adobe applications from the Creative Cloud. So now I'm using a lot more of the Adobe mobile apps. And one of the apps that I use a lot right now is I'm using Adobe Comp a lot more. I probably use it more than the other Adobe apps aside from Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Post. And I'll tell you what these apps do. So Adobe Comp is a layout program. So if you're trying to if you would normally on a coffee napkin sketch out like a website or a print ad or something like that to show people, well, this is going to be the header, and this is going to be where the images and the content goes in the footer. You can intuitively do that with Adobe Comp on your iPhone or on your iPad, and I have both. And so that's something I'm taking a lot more advantage of because in meetings it makes sense. And the beauty of it is later when I go to my desktop, I could actually import whatever I mocked up over into one of the desktop apps, and I could actually work on it and make a real presentation out of it. So I'm not starting from scratch, or I'm not having to, I have to scan something from my notebook or the napkin into the computer. It's like, no, it's already here and it's saved. I don't have to worry about losing it, dropping water on it, whatever. So that's pretty handy. Lightroom lets me take photos that are either sitting in the cloud or on my phone, and I can actually edit them with a real editing program, and I can still bring that over to the computer later. And then with Adobe Post, I'm able to make some of my own graphics for social media for Instagram and Twitter with images and things that I already have, plus remix some of the templates that they have and make some cool stuff. And it's gotten me to really step up my Instagram game for marketing and also some of my Twitter image posts. So it's really convenient and handy.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's definitely perfect. I love the idea of working with Instagram. I've actually been working with that a lot more recently. And I've actually had some job fairs, and we had the most interesting experience with the job fair in that we were doing a job fair, and we had some marketing materials. And what happened was someone found out about the job fair from Instagram, and we had no presence and no promotion on Instagram at all. And the person said, "Yeah, I found your flyer on Instagram." We're like, "What flyer?" We're like, "The flyer for this job fair." And it's like, this is a private job fair, but literally somebody posted the flyer that we actually had on Instagram. Someone ran outside that was connected to us, found it, and was able to come to the job fair because of that.
Well, that just shows the power of leveraging that with marketing. Instagram is definitely a mobile app I take advantage of a lot. In fact, I got the iPhone 6S specifically to help me more with social media in general. I have an older Android phone that I still use, but as a social media and business phone, I like the iPhone, but not as a phone. I like it as a tool. Mm-hmm. I'm actually looking at upgrading to an Android phone for my secondary phone, which is my more personal phone, because for me personally, day to day, I like using the Android phone a little more as a phone. But I also do like the idea of it having it as another camera or another device. So for me, that just makes sense. I also, as someone who educates people on technology, I feel it's important for me to stay familiar with all the ecosystems. I run Mac and PC. I run Android and iPhone. So a lot of people would not like to make that investment. A lot of people would not, go both ways and see I want a seamless, quote unquote ecosystem. I make everything work together because that's the way the real world works. I have no idea what somebody's technology will be. I have no idea what a client's going to, have, or if I'm going to consult people, which is a big part of my business now, is consulting both individuals and brands. And then sometimes I take on the execution for them. I have to be able to work with what their ecosystem and their tools are. And if I'm not educated on everything, I'm not educated on anything.
Great point. Very good point. It's so one of the things I wanted to touch on real quick, and I know Andrea probably has a question. So with a video like you, how mobile are you? I know you're saying you're doing public speaking, but let's say, do you travel with the laptop and your entire set of gear?
Well, I'm shifting some of that because travel is becoming more part of it. It's been a hassle in the past, but I've been doing it and I make it work for me, and I've got a workflow for that. But I'm going to be changing some of my setup to accommodate that more. I shoot on Nikon DSLR gear right now, but I'm looking at specifically, I'm going to keep my Nikon gear, but I decided that I'm going to invest in the Sony camera system because I've borrowed some of that from my friends at Lumoid to do reviews, which is like a camera rental and lens rental place. And so I've decided that I'm going to invest in actually owning some of the Sony system gear this year because it's lighter. The mirrorless cameras are lighter. They do a great job with video and photography. I think Monty froze. Yep, Monty, you might need to refresh.
Can you hear me or see me?
We can hear you, but you're frozen.
Okay.
So you might want to refresh. So what, I'm looking at that because it'll just make my travel gear lighter. It might cut down my travel weight physically by half. And I'm a smaller frame guy, so that might be, important. Also, recently I started working, doing a review for Dell of the XPS 13 laptop.
Whoa.
It's super light. It's like a 13-inch screen, but it's an 11-inch body. And the reason I like that and that they sent it is because it's like, wait a minute, I see all these public speakers on the MacBook Air, but they don't do their own video editing and they don't do their own press photos and they don't do any of that stuff. They're just speaking and giving their presentations. I'm then also taking the content and I'm interviewing other speakers while I'm at these events that I'm at. So I have to actually be able to work. I can't just use something that's good for surfing the internet or putting up a PowerPoint. I have to actually edit video, edit photo. So what I like about this one, and they gave me the top tier model, is it has 16 gigs and it's got all the power that I need. It's got i7 Skylake. So I can actually use all my Adobe stuff on this Ultrabook, which, most of the Ultrabooks and most of the light laptops in the market, this thing's 2.7 pounds. You can't do that. So I'm like, okay, well, this makes sense. So now I have that versus like the laptop I'm on for here is like a desktop style laptop. It's 15 inches. This thing weighs almost 5 pounds. So when you add that to camera gear, it's like, no way, like I'm crushing my shoulder. I'm a small guy. I'm like 125 pounds soaking wet. There's like, I don't need to be doing that. So for me, it's like, okay, cool. This Dell Ultrabook, I'm going to get the Sony stuff. And then all of a sudden, my job is going to get a lot easier for making content while I'm mobile and on the go. Now, someone would say, well, why don't you just use the iPhone? Well, I've done that sometimes, but the reality is that you don't get the quality, you don't get the look, you don't get the control. Even with the lapel mics I have from like Rode, you don't always get the sound quality you want. I know that if I use a real camera, I'll get a real great piece of content.
That's pretty awesome. Laszlo actually had a great question, and it actually speaks to something I was thinking about as well. He was asking if you're a startup or if you're running a company. And I actually want to speak to that before you even talk about it. One of the most interesting things I've actually seen about what Roberto's done is he has a story about his progression of how he got to certain levels in YouTube. And that's where he's, in my perspective, one of the most successful people that I've seen on YouTube, because he does help people to understand how to do great videos and show that progression. This is what I did to start. This is what I did to get to this level. And now he's at 70,000 subscribers. And that's a community in and of itself. But I let Roberto speak to more about that.
Well, yeah, like, that's totally it. And like, I want people to also understand it's like, I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'm a businessman first, a lot of things in between, and a YouTuber dead last. And a lot of people don't know that about me or don't get that because they look at like, I'm on my way to 80,000 subscribers. We're in countdown mode to where in April is where I probably hit 100,000. That seems like a big jump from 80,000 to 100,000 in April. What is I've implemented a strategy that's going to do that because for me, it's growth metrics, community building, growth hacking, and I put a system in place that allows for that completely organically. But I leverage YouTube as my conversation and marketing platform, and it does the work for me with the 600 plus videos 24/7, even while I'm asleep. It grows my business, grows my personal brand, builds relationships for me that I can then go deeper on. And obviously it makes me revenues between affiliate marketing, ad revenue, referral business for my actual business, which is the biggest pipeline. Like, you don't make money on YouTube. You make money with YouTube. At least you do if you're smart about it. So that's why I say I'm a YouTuber last. Everything I do in YouTube is predicated not on YouTube, but on what makes sense for my personal brand and for my business. There's a lot of things I could do to be bigger in YouTube, but I don't give a crap about that because I want to grow my business and I want to build relationships and I want to do these other things. YouTube helps me get there. YouTube is not the goal. I had no interest in being a big YouTuber or being internet famous. I'm interested in, helping more people solve creative problems, being a creative influencer, changing the culture of how creatives think about themselves and they think about their work, how people are going to behave 10 years from now when they go and they hire people because maybe when they start their agency, they were influenced by my attitude and my approach to the business. And seeing that I could be successful being a good person might encourage and inspire them. So I use the YouTube growth metric as the impact of my savvy as a marketer, my ability to help people as a real measuring stick for legacy of, did I help 100,000 people in my lifetime? Check. That's how I use it. And then obviously to grow my other business ventures. So, I mean, that's the thing. And that's why I try to teach people about YouTube is to use YouTube to grow the thing that you really care about. The thing you should care about shouldn't be YouTube. It should be a platform you use to get everything else.
I think that's an important point because most people doing marketing now are doing the exact opposite. Like, I want to become internet famous or make money on the internet, and then it sort of gets lost. I'll do anything and everything to make money and do. I think we were just talking about this the other night was I tend to stray away from following everyone so that we can really hone into what we're actually doing as opposed to just what everybody else is doing. Because, follow a certain people, set of people that can inspire you and help you that put out your message. But otherwise, don't detract from what you're really trying to do, what you're trying to create, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's about the value of the relationship. It's about the value of the content, both for you and for the other person, and then at scale. And like, I'm not a follow backer, and I get a lot of crap from younger people about that because they don't understand. Because unfortunately, there's an entitlement in social media. There's an entitlement in culture right now. And I'm a millennial. I'm 32. I'm a millennial, but I'm skewing on being an older millennial. And like, I'm not a follow backer because I'm a giver backer, mind you. I give value, and I sometimes don't ever get it back, and I'm fine with that. Like, you know, I'll give upfront value first all day, and I do. But the thing is, realistically, it makes no sense to be a follow backer. It's like I'm a person who's trying to use YouTube to conduct business. Why am I going to follow somebody who's all about showing you the video game they played? And don't get me wrong, I played video games when I was little too. You know what was the most annoying thing in the world for me? It was sitting there watching someone else play a video game that I wanted to be playing. So why would I ever watch that video? Why would I ever follow you to watch you entertain yourself while I'm not being entertained? And I'm not playing, and I'm not having fun, and I'm not getting those points. You're getting those points. Why would I put myself through that? Like, I mean, that's just me. Some people are entertained by that. It's whatever your thing is. But it's like, but then also when people comment on videos and they're like, well, like my videos or come watch my thing, it's like, they don't understand that they're going into somebody else's candy store and yelling, come to my candy store. And they don't realize how rude that is, because people don't interpret the internet world and the internet relationships as real relationships. I'm tired of hearing internet world versus real world. It's all the real world. It's a matter of analog versus digital, but it's still very real. That's a very real human being with a name and a face that happens to be on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or wherever they're at. And when you troll them or you leave a negative comment that has nothing to do with like constructive criticism for improvement, do this better, or I didn't follow, or I didn't understand, versus just you suck, you know, or I don't like it. It's like, okay, cool. I don't like strawberries either. I gorged on them as a kid and everything like that. Doesn't mean that I'm going to like sit there and like boycott them or say that they're terrible. They're healthy. They're great. I just can't eat them anymore.
I just made $1,000 on YouTube. You know, come take a survey. You know, it's aggravating because that's what marketers and a lot of marketers teach people coming in to the industry. It's you come in, go and find some popular post on Facebook or a popular video on YouTube and just comment the heck out of it. Have zero respect for this person, the time and effort they put into their community and the content, and just be that person.
I see that. I do see that. And I see that as a lot of marketers. And that's like the aggressive style of marketing that I don't like. I tell everybody that's about create awesome, create value. What is the value of this conversation to the other person? I don't leave a comment on someone's YouTube video unless it's to say like a very short like compliment, unless I'm going to go deep and then because I want a conversation saying, you know what, I think that what you brought was an important point that isn't talked about enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, go into the weeds. And like people see that and they see me comment on like my friend Evan Carmichael stuff, or they see me comment on like Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, but they see that I'm not self-promoting in that place at all. I'm having a conversation and saying, this is what I did based on what Gary said, and this is what happened, or I agree with Gary because in my story this happened, or the reason I watch Evan is because he gives this kind of thing and it wakes me up in the morning and I look forward to it. And like, so I do that. And I tell people that that's the right thing. And that, don't get me wrong, that could be strategic too, in the sense that, well, you're doing that and you're commenting, but then you don't have a good thumbnail profile image that says anything about what you're about, number one. Okay, so I don't even know that you're a real person. And then two, if I hover over your thumbnail, it says nothing because you'd never bothered to fill out the about section of your YouTube channel or whatever. So I have no idea what the context of who you are is and whether I should be interested in you at all. And so I've written you off. And then people get so aggravated about, well, I hate when someone says I need subscribers. You don't need subscribers. You want subscribers, you'd like subscribers, but you don't need subscribers. Like, number one, subscribers in YouTube, as big as the number of I have, the subscribers I get in YouTube doesn't actually do anything for the YouTube channel. 70%, 80% of my views, of the 400,000 views I get a month, 80% of that is new people who haven't subscribed yet. So that's interesting metric number one. Right. Interesting metric number two, subscribers is not what drives YouTube search algorithm, because I've gotten first page of results above people with 10 times as many subscribers, 20 times, 50 times as many. From the very beginning, I've been able to do that because YouTube cares about SEO to say, did you give me enough information by not being lazy about a title, description, and your tags to give real context to what a human being is looking for right now? Did I think about it. YouTube is a store. where I have to say, did I put this video on the right shelf?
Mm.
So really think about that. Like, did I put this video on the right shelf? What information did you give YouTube to let them know that you put the video on the right shelf for the person looking for that thing? Like, think about how you find a video in Netflix when you're looking for, like, you know, Vampire Diaries or The Flash or whatever you're looking for. What'd you type in? Okay. You want your video to be found? Did you put in some goofy, quirky title that no one's looking for, or did you put in something relevant? And then did the description match that? And then did the tags match the things that someone would search through? So SEO matters. And why? I was a blogger, so I knew that. I was a web designer in my career, so I knew that. So when I went to YouTube, I used those smarts to know YouTube is owned by Google. Gee, I bet you search is important. What do I do? So marketing-wise, it's about understanding context, what's the value for the other person, then making that content interesting. It's like, well, okay, well now, like even when I had 70,000 subscribers when I ended the year, like, you know what I did? Like the last week of the holidays and like the first week of the new year, I went back and I like updated like 180 videos with new thumbnails. A video that I put out in August, I actually got 10,000 views on it in the last 30 days, bringing it back from the dead with a new thumbnail and by tweaking the description a little bit. And a video that like, I like literally added 10,000 new views and new interest and made that video that I put out in August relevant again by doing that, because I didn't sleep on the fact that I had 70,000 subscribers. I did what it took to like make my content, package it better. If you're not doing that, then don't complain about results. I mean, I'm not saying that facetiously or arrogantly. I'm saying that people don't bother to learn the platform. They don't master the YouTube dashboard. They don't learn their YouTube analytics. They don't even use the free YouTube playbook, the YouTube playbook guide that YouTube put out. They don't use the YouTube creator channel that YouTube put out with the top YouTubers giving their best tips and strategies and even some of their secrets. They're not watching every single video from Daryl Eves, Tim Schmoyer, not watching the stuff from Amy Schmittauer, not watching the stuff where Steve Dotto explained exactly what he did to grow his channel to 100,000 subscribers. You know, they'll watch 1 or 2 videos of mine, implement that for 2 or 3 videos for a week, and then say this doesn't work. It's not putting in the effort and the work, because I tell people they're convinced that YouTube is a game that they should hack and that they should look for shortcuts and tricks and tips and everything like that. This is not Xbox. And like, I will say that I feel like YouTube, like gaming is ruining YouTube a little bit and YouTube is ruining gaming. I say that as someone who used to be a gamer. Like, you used to have to actually learn the secrets and now you can just watch a YouTube video. But like, the thing is, YouTube's a sport. It's like learning how to play football or soccer or basketball. You're not going to be good at it day one. You're not going to be good at it week one. You're probably not going to be good at it year one. Like, my first 100 videos, in my opinion, were crap. And I tell everyone you have to get your first 100 crappy out of the gate. But like, don't sit there and think, well, oh, I'll just post a video every day and then I'll get my first 100 crappy videos out that way. It's like, you need the process of the learning curve of like everything. Like, I go back and I've watched some of the biggest YouTubers. I've watched like Marquez Brownlee's first videos from 6 or 7 years ago. I watched Karen Cavitt's videos like for 2 years. She like struggled to even get like 1,000 views on a video. She's like 150,000 subscriber YouTuber now, part of the Nerd Fighter community, someone who speaks on panels at VidCon. But if you go back and you watch where she was 6 years ago, she wasn't confident on camera. She couldn't get 1,000 views. The lighting wasn't anything great. And I'm not saying that to be critical of her. I love Karen's stuff. But like, everyone starts somewhere. Like Gary Vaynerchuk's first videos for Wine Library TV, he says it himself. He looks like he's like, a terrorist in a cave and he's orange. Like, he said that in his like last couple of videos and Ask Gary V. He said like, yeah, go back and watch my old stuff. I was on a flip cam. It was horrible. And it was like, he says that. And I'm like, yeah, go back to my stuff. Like, my message and my content and the like stuff, a lot of it was the same. But it's like, boy, was my screen presence and my stage presence horrible. And was I monotone? I can't look at my old content. So it's understanding that you put in the work.
How long have you been doing it now? Like, not just business, because I know it's very interesting because, this experience versus having, Blab versus YouTube versus people that actually use, what was it, Google Plus? How long have you been doing YouTube specifically?
So like everyone else, I had a YouTube account like for the longest time. Like, and everybody like posted the occasional random video every 2 years. I did that too. I got my account back in 2009. Was I doing YouTube in 2009? No, I was just like messing around. I had an account. So when I started doing YouTube, it was July of 2013. That's when I started doing weekly Photoshop videos. And I started, so I had pretty much 0 active subscribers back then. It's like, sure, maybe I had like for the last 4 years, like 200 people who would like click subscribe that never unclicked, but they weren't active. They weren't around. I hadn't done like a video in forever, you know? So that 200, I say it might as well have been 0. Cause like, you know, there weren't active people. Those accounts were probably dead, and YouTube didn't do culling back then of dead accounts. So I had 0 subscribers. And in July 2013, I decided to do serious Photoshop tutorials that I thought would be fun and informative. I put that out every week on Thursday, and I was like half the time I was late. It was coming out on Friday or Saturday. But I made a commitment to try to do them for Thursdays. And I tried to make a commitment to get better. And every now and again, I would mix in a video talking about my graphic design career and giving advice, talking about like how to do something else. And I would talk on camera at that point. And then I started getting so much traction on that and getting questions that I started having to make videos to answer those questions. And so then I pivoted, realized there was an opportunity here. And I used both of those things, both tutorials and then a combination of advice videos, to pivot and make my channel more than a design channel. I grew it into a how-to channel on things that I cared about. For a while, I experimented with other things because I was still finding my footing. There was a point where, like, well, I was really into these TV shows, and as a marketer, I had some things to say about them. So I did a couple of TV show and movie reviews because I was into that at the time. And then, like, but I realized I wasn't as into that, and so I stopped doing that content at a certain point. Audience wasn't super interested in that. I was like, well, if I ever do that again, I'll make another channel, or maybe I'll partner with someone else on their channel, or I'll be a cameo, or I'll be a guest. I'll do a podcast on that, or who knows. But like, you know, I killed that stuff off. I focused on, well, what do I spend my time on? I don't even spend time watching these shows anymore. I'm busy doing the business. I'm like spending time messing with my camera stuff. So I started expanding the content to, what am I spending my time on? What am I doing that I love the most? And it was, well, I'm doing design. I'm buying new tech, started reviewing that. Okay, I'm doing all this camera stuff. Oh, the YouTube channel is growing. I can teach people how to do that. So I started just creating value. I just started making these how-to videos, showing people how to create awesome things, share them with the world. And so that was the process. So from 2013, July to now, I grew that audience. Last year in February, I had 20,000 subscribers in February of 2015. By October, I grew that to like 60,000. Jared Kleiner did an article on that growth from Forbes, because like that's not normal growth rate for any social media, let alone YouTube. YouTube is like one of the hardest things to scale, and there's so much saturation and competition. So we talked about what my tips were for doing that, how I did it, why I did it. Ended the year with like 74,000, 75. Like, no, I ended the year with like 70,000. I'm almost sure that's what it was. And then, I ended the year with like 70,000. And then the last 30 days of the new year, I grew the channel by another 7,600 or so new subscribers, because redoing the thumbnails, doing some other things, doing some gateway content. I have a strategy of, well, everyone's excited about the fact that I might hit, and in their mind I know I will, 100,000 subscribers this year. I know what the date is for that, literally at this point.
That's pretty cool.
My goal is, how do I add 100,000 new subscribers to the channel? Because I need a big enough mountain to climb. How do I help 100,000 more people? And so I built a new strategy around that for my 2016 content. At the end of 2015, I built out a content schedule for, how do I put out 500 videos this year?
Wow.
Like, how do I put out 500 videos this year that are going to be the most helpful? So I made a content calendar, and I made a schedule, and I made a plan. I made a strategy. I was like, well, how do I get over 10,000 new subscribers net every month? What does that look like? What is getting like 40, not 40, what is getting like 350, 400 new people every single day on the YouTube channel? What does that look like? And so the new average right now is about maybe 275 to 350 in terms of new people a day the first month in that strategy. So those are the things I looked at, is like, how can I create value? A how-to channel is the hardest thing in the world to scale. It's education versus entertainment. Let's be real. It's easier to do a TV review channel. It's easy to do a movie review channel by comparison. Someone would, as much as YouTube gamers complain about it, I will tell you right now, it would be easy to do a YouTube gaming channel. I have a strategy where I knew if I wanted to be a YouTube gamer, I know exactly how I could make a big YouTube gaming channel successful. And I'll probably never share that strategy, because I really just don't like what the community around it. It's no offense to anybody, but it's like, the worst that I've seen the sub for sub stuff, the worst I've seen the entitlement thing. And again, I'm going to be honest with this because I know people are going to criticize me for it, and I'm okay with it. I'm going to be honest. The youth culture around using YouTube for gaming is predicated on watching the success of someone like PewDiePie and not realizing why he's an anomaly, and not realizing that because he had no intention of becoming YouTube famous, he became YouTube famous. Anybody who's in the game to become internet famous probably will not become internet famous, right? Because we understand as human beings, we know better than that. We're not interested in like that kind of selfish motive of somebody. We're not interested in just rewarding people who want attention and are all about getting attention. We want value. And if someone's genuinely entertaining and fun and lighthearted, cool. If someone's fun and informative, cool. But if someone's literally just screaming, I want attention, give me attention, we're not interested.
That kind of speaks back to 2 points. And I actually look at sort of 2 things about that. One, Laszlo actually asked a question. Laszlo's question is about when you're actually working with your clients, do you focus on cybersecurity, especially when you're building the marketing approach? But then also one of the final questions I want to make sure we covered is like, how do we have someone find you as a client or do business with you in the future? But the cybersecurity, I think, is very interesting because video is becoming more and more relevant to online marketing and online strategies. And cybersecurity is becoming more and more relevant. Do you touch on that with your approach?
Well, there's a couple of things involved with that. So what I would say about like YouTube is like the second largest search engine in the world, right? And we know it's the largest video platform in the world. And we know that it's theoretically positioning to be the largest media company in the world. And we know it's backed by Google, who we know is one of the largest internet companies in the world itself and is practically the backbone of the internet at this point for search, discovery, and education. With that in mind, it is a disproportionate opportunity for everything and anything, meaning business, meaning education, meaning learning, meaning exposure to new clients. And like I said, YouTube, aside from my website, is probably my hardest working employee. YouTube is marketing and growing the business and making more money and making more sales probably than like any other employee. And my employees right now consist of YouTube, my website, Twitter, Facebook, Blab, Periscope, Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest. Like, you know, that's the workforce. That's the team. Like, you know, and they never call out sick and never ask for a raise.
Best kind of team you could have.
Right. So with that in mind, though, with speaking to cybersecurity, the thing is, there's a couple aspects to that. One, you just have to do best practices where all that's concerned. 2, you have to be very aware of what you put out to the world. I think that people just have to be responsible where that's concerned. And I see a lot of people in social media, a lot of people in business, a lot of people in video being irresponsible as far as what they put out into the world sometimes. And that bothers me sometimes as well. I think that a lot of it is there's a lot of troll culture. There's a lot of attention grabbing. There's a lot of aggressive marketing. There's a lot of misinformation. And those things bother me, but there's not a lot that can be done about it other than just educating people and offering an alternative and trying to keep things very positive. The hyper reason that I'm critical of like certain communities in that sense is because there are people who do things that from a cybersecurity standpoint, they do things like dislike botting. They do stuff like auto following. They do stuff to, and those things all negatively impact the overall community and the positive things that people are trying to do. And then they also jeopardize the platform. And in that, it can jeopardize people's livelihoods. And also people set themselves up for failure because you know what happened with the great Instagram purge. People got all these fake followers, fake views, fake likes, even celebrities. And then Instagram upped their security game, purged all that, and people were called out, and people's reputations were harmed by that. Marketing firms that did shady black hat tactics put themselves in a liability situation. So, like, you know, that would be my thoughts on it. But, like, does that kind of answer your question, or did you want to, like, caveat there or go deeper? What do you want to do with that?
Well, me personally, and I know that might be also specifically with Laszlo, that covers it because I think the biggest question is like, how are people how are you addressing it? Because you've had experience with it, and one of the things we'll probably talk also in more detail, possibly with you and some other people, is like the cybersecurity impact of video. Because I was talking to a company and a client, and they were looking at how companies can actually use video to work with their cybersecurity, and not necessarily security, but more making sure employee engagement stays at a high level. So
I think that's, to be honest, I think that some of that's dangerous. I think that it's a two-way street, because some of it's dangerous because there's an implication in the social contract that people are honorable. The assumption has to be made until proven otherwise that people are honorable and they're hardworking. Accountability comes down to you either checked off the things you did in a box or you didn't. The 9-to-5 culture is actually dying and it's hanging on by a thread because of that social contract and the fact that people romantically cling to a factory worker mentality of the industrial revolution. When we live in an information revolution and information age, like, we're no longer in the industrial age. Factory worker culture, factory worker tactics do not apply to business today, and they shouldn't. We should kill that out right now. We should literally take it out like Old Yeller into the backyard right now, today. Today. We should do that. You know why? Because it's disproportionately disadvantageous for businesses to waste money and to waste electricity and to waste internet bandwidth cost and to waste overhead in larger facilities than they need to facilitate this. And it's why businesses are going under now that are not agile enough, because they romantically want to put people in a cubicle and stare over them and watch them and make sure they're being busy beavers, instead of just saying, you either did your work today or you didn't. You either did your work this month or you didn't. You're either still working for me or you're not. And it's really, accountability comes down to that. And if I need to call you to get a decision or to get something in front of you by the end of the day, and I try you 2-3 times and I can't reach you at home and there's not a very good reason on like our corporate cell phone that we provide you or whatever it is, specifically for that, something where you can't say, oh, I'm busy because like, oh, I was on the other line. It's like, no, this is your dedicated phone, like, which is a business expense. That's tax deductible. Then if we can't get you after 3 things, that's a reprimand. Enough reprimands, it's like, okay, your privileges are revoked, you're done, and you're like next. And that's from a practicality standpoint, that's all business needs to do. So putting video cameras in place to ensure productivity, I think, is an infringement on the social contract of, if I hired you and I paid you, I was either smart enough to understand that you're a noble and honorable, hardworking person, or I'm admitting that I'm not that good at my vetting and my HR and my hiring, and that I hired someone that's going to slack off the moment they have the first opportunity. So I think that the social contract, and I think practicality dictates that you can't do that because you're already admitting failure and you're already accusing somebody of being dishonest. And so I don't believe in that. I believe in using video marketing to show a good corporate culture, like the behind the scenes, things like the Ask Gary Vee show. I believe in giving your employees, your customers, your clients the opportunity to conversate with you in something like Blab, Q&A behind the scenes in Periscope, Snapchat, have the conversation, show the culture, ask questions, and it's free compared to the thousands of dollars that you pay marketing and PR firms to do poll testing and to do focus groups. It's a matter of that practicality. It's a matter of, you could get this, instead of paying for cold calling, like $50,000 spent in salaries to have people sitting around cold calling all year. If you only sold $50,000 worth of product directly attributable to those cold calls, that's crap. You could have just had someone do, one employee, do a Periscope or do a webinar, capture the email addresses, qualify leads. You gave your email address to be in a webinar. Cool. You're on the lot. You want to buy. That's infinitely cheaper and more valuable and a better usage of time. And then you could always, after the fact, sell that webinar as an info product theoretically, or you could always use it as marketing after the live Q&A. To do that, to get more people and get more qualified leads or get attention or whatever it is, if you need brand awareness. And that's infinitely cheaper than the salaries associated with, I still say pay those employees, but use them more productively to do something else, not cold calling. And yes, I agree with Grant Cardone that cold calling isn't entirely dead, but I think cold calling is dead for your bottom tier grunt employee. I think that cold calling is down to the executive closers. It's down to those guys, and those aren't cold calls. Those are warm calls anyway, because people are fully aware of who that guy or gal is, and you let them do those deals. It doesn't make sense to have lower mid-tier or lower tier employees. They'd be better served doing a Q&A session, doing customer service in that regard, in a live stream environment that can be repurposed. So that's my answer to that.
Interesting. And speaking to the closer, I want to actually wrap up the podcast real quick, but But I want to touch base on Chris Vernon's question after the podcast. Specifically, I wanted to make sure we had an actual contact with people that actually want to work with you. If you wanted to leave that information of how people would actually reach out to you, how we would do that.
So absolutely. People can find me at robertoblake.com is my website. For the YouTube channel, where they can get access to my 600 plus educational and fun and informative videos, you go youtube.com/robertoblake2, as in the number 2. If they want to ask me short questions briefly, directly, they can hit me up in Twitter at Roberto Blake. And if they want to email me for one-on-one coaching and consulting, because, I can give you general advice in a YouTube video, but that's not the same thing as a prescription for success if you're just getting it off the shelf. So if they want to do that, they can email me directly at rblake@robertoblake.com. That's
awesome. Thank you, Roberto. We're going to stick around for a minute to go in a little bit more detail, as long as Roberto has available. I actually have to step out, truth be told.